Igbo ọma na-ege ntị, ekenenu m unu ọzọ n'ụbọchị uhuruchi nke taa. Asị m nke echiri ya zelu. Asị m ndị be anyị ụbọchị nke taa ya dịrị anyị na mma. Na ya dị ka echi na-echi ada agwụ agwụ. Otu anyị kwuru otu akwa ya dịrịrị. Ise, ise, ise. Dịka o si dị, ebe anyị si na-ewetara unu ozi ya bụ na Eastern News 24. Dịka anyị si kwuo nkwa na ị ga na-agba mbọ na-ewetara unu any update ọ bụla bụ gbasịta maka ihe na-eme na obodo anyị nọ n'ime ya. Ana gbasịta maka nwere onwe ndị Igbo na-azọ. Ife anyị kwere nkwa na ị ga na-ewetara unu update n'oge ọbụla n'iru akwụkwọ. Dịka o si dị, o were nwanne nwoke were ịgwa anyị n'iru akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị uhuruchi nke taa. Mma achọ ka ị gee ya bụ ife bụ nnukwu ọ dị mkpa na ọbụla bụ onye Igbo ya ege ya. Ị ga-esia ya ikwuo ife ị chere gbasịta maka ihe ndị a niile kwugasị n'iru akwụkwọ. Unu m onye anyị na-ekwu maka ya, achọrọ m ka anyị kpọọ okwu afa, mana mma achọ ka anyị gee ya bụ ife. Ị ga-esia ya drọpụrụ anyị kọmentị gị ife ị chere gbasịta maka ihe ndị a niile okwu. All right, over to you, sir.
Oji, great to have you.
Good morning.
How are you?
Dr. Rufai, you're on fire earlier. No one would ever know. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great,
Perfect.
Oji.
We're missing Dr. Abati this morning. I'm changing up for some reason. Rufai.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Well, all right. Well, good morning to you viewers. Let's begin what's trending. The leader of the indigenous peoples of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, caused a frenzy at the Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday after his bail request was denied. Kanu has been in detention over alleged treasonable felony while reacting to the ruling. Kanu, who was visibly angry, accused the federal government of violating the Constitution and other international treaties following his forceful rendition to Nigeria. He also called the Prosecution Counsel, Boyega Awomolo, a terrorist for conducting a trial in violation of the international treaty. Let's take a look.
Anybody standing in trial or coming to try me is a terrorist. That's what their law says. Section what me?
As simple as that.
Section 2, subsection 3F of Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. That's what it says. Any court considered to try me is committed an act of terrorism.
Yes.
Very clear. You cannot violate a treaty that Nigeria entered into and then come to try that very person is not done anywhere in the world. So you must be aware of that. So that is why there is all these ridiculous delays. That is what Supreme Court said. I did not jump bail. My home was invaded. They came to kill me and I survived. They came to Kenya to kidnap me, brought me back to this country and seeking to try me, which the law says cannot happen. You cannot violate a treaty that Nigeria entered into and then hope to stand on that illegality to conduct a trial is not done anywhere in the world. And it happened in my case. Nobody has, there's no exception. No exception whatsoever. That's what the law says. Section 12 of the Constitution, what does it say? Any treaty ratified by Nigeria becomes law. It's law. You cannot change it. It doesn't matter what they do. All this shenanigans is just pure rubbish. You never stand.
All right, Rufai, I mean, Dr. Abati, I would have, presented that part of the Constitution for him to analyze at this point. But, it's been all over social media that Nnamdi Kanu has now called a federal government, a lawyer, a terrorist. Let me just take some tweets. Let me take this one particular tweet. This person wrote, "Everyone might not have agreed with Kanu, but it is very obvious that the federal government is only trying to incarcerate him unlawfully for asking for a legitimate right to self-determination after filing some fictitious charges like terrorism, etc. against him. The court acquitted and discharged him of all charges. Now, instead of obeying the court order, Buhari keeps him unlawfully for the next administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to continue illegally detaining him since his arrest and unlawful detention. They don't even grant him access to change of clothes. This is pure injustice. They don't want to release him, nor do they wish to grant him bail. And tomorrow they'll tell us there's a rule of law in Nigeria. Injustice for one is injustice for all. I mean, I believe that we have actually dealt with the conversation about his change of clothes and even his health. I believe that they asked the DSS to make sure that, he's allowed change of clothes, he's allowed to his attorneys, he's allowed to, medical attention and all of that. But I don't know what your thoughts are, Rufai, on, his accusations here. I mean, this is not the first time we've heard Kanu speak. I believe just in recent times he's spoken about twice now. But, I think that it is also good to hear from him. I mean, even hearing that he's talking about the fact that they tried to kill him and that he didn't jump bail.
Okay, so there are many parts to this Kanu matter. We all remember what happened, the episode, how he left the country. I said his home was invaded and he left the country, was out. He kept on, making statements, and all of a sudden we all see how he was bundled back in the Buhari style from Kenya. And for watchers of history, we all remember that this is not the first time Buhari is going to do such a thing, and it doesn't make it right. He did that also in the 80s. We remember when somebody was almost put in a crate back to this country before that was scuttled. It's finally back here. He's gone through the legal process. There's been a ruling as regards that. Then the federal government goes back again to court to say, he can do this, he can do that, he can job here. So the trial is still going on. For me, the federal government has a way of handling issues of dissent, which is two things. The incumbent president will say, it's not my problem, let me kick the can down the road to the next president. It was done. I think if you remember the case of Asari Dokuba and all of that. But some have the willingness to say, okay, let me even listen to the other part and make peace reign. I'm probably sure President Buhari looked and said, okay, we'll kick it down the road. But you see, the question I want to ask this morning is, any Nigerian truly should come out to tell me that there's been no representative of any ethnic group that has asked to leave this union. Among the three major ethnic groups, they've all asked to leave this union at one point or the other.
Now everyone has a right to self-determination.
With extension to the Ijaws. We remember Isaac Adakaboro in the 60s. Because of unfairness. We remember Sunday Igboho recently. We remember how some of this military top brass were screaming Araba after that interregnum when Agu Ironsi was killed. That long weekend when Nigeria had no leader before Yakubu Gowon took over. So all of us had screamed that we are not happy about the way this unit called Nigeria is favoring us. But the question is, should we throw the baby away with the bathwater as regards our screams? No. And that's why I've always said, President Tinubu will have to look for a solution to the Nnamdi Kanu debacle. He still has another 3-4 years. I know he doesn't want to deal with it now. It's not a thing he can kick down the road, like Buhari did. Also, we need to be able to get trade-offs. We want a strong, united nation, yes, as Nigerians, but also we want a nation that listens to other parts. We can talk legalese from today till tomorrow. It's not going to solve the problem. It's a political solution that will solve the problem. Right. The last time we were close to a political solution, Igbo elders went to Buhari. He said he had heard, he didn't do anything about it. At this point in time, there needs to be a solution. Yeah. Once and for all. Political solution. Political solution.
Rule of law. I mean, your thoughts are on this conversation, whether or not, he's accurate in describing his detention as unlawful, and the federal government lawyer describing him as a terrorist at this point.
So he appeared before the Federal High Court, and that's Justice Binta Nyako's court. Yes. And by the way, she's mentioned that his lawyers shouldn't file before her, that instead they should proceed to the Court of Appeal. Instead, if they did come back to her again, there would be an abuse of judicial process, a waste of her time, lightly put. Now, I think it's a stretch of the word terrorism to accuse Chief Awomolo, who is on the government side in terms of the prosecutor, as a terrorist for not adhering to treaties signed by Nigeria. But I can also understand, because this case is now seeming to be like, it is appearing to be as if on the federal government side, they are not adhering to the rule of law, and that is his agitation. Yes. And this is what would also be provocative, whether you like it or not. Earlier on today, we're talking about how no matter how people have their people who are loyal to them, no matter, I mean, whichever way you view them, and this is unnecessarily inciting people to him beginning to get sympathizers. If you want to take a man to court, you want to charge him then do it. And let him go through the process of the court and let it not seem as if you are deliberately trying to keep him in detention. The reason for the refusal of his application of bail, and this time by the judge, was because he had jumped bail in 2017 when she had given him bail, when he had gone on bail. But beyond that is how they have stretched out and, just elongated this case without a seeming end to it, and just keeping him in detention with him not having full course to his rights. This is where the real issue is. And during campaign season, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was asked as to what he would do about the Nnamdi Kanu situation, especially because he kept talking about how he would be a president who respected and adhered to the tenets of the rule of law. So in the interest of fairness and in adherence to the rule of law, it's not in personal interest or how a particular administration feels personally about a situation. At all points, the president must be seen to defend the rule of law, and he should not be partial to any person or institution. This is the bane of that. This is the topic of conversation. This is a critical factor with the Nnamdi Kanu situation. Whether he's guilty or not, let him go through the rule of law. Let the law apply to him. It should not be discriminatory. It should not be. No one should have preferential treatment when it comes to the rule of law. This is the real situation on ground.
Well, all right. We'll take another story. Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, has faulted travel restrictions for African investors traveling across the African continent. Dangote spoke at the Africa CEO Forum Annual Summit in Kigali, Rwanda, stating that he has to apply for 35 different visas on his Nigerian passport to travel within Africa. Meanwhile, a French passport does not need 35 visas to gain access to African countries. Well, let's take a look before we come back for a discussion.
Mr. Dangote, you have previously complained about the difficulty of traveling on a Nigerian passport across the continent. Has it become easier?
Even an hour ago, I complained to President Kagame.
At least you can come here visa-free.
No, here is the best example, but I told him that, yes, as an investor, as somebody who really wants to make Africa great, I have to now apply 35 different visas on my passport. And I told Mr. President, I said, Mr. President, I really don't have the time to go and be dropping my passports in embassies to get a visa. But you see, the most annoying thing is that, yes, if you are treating everybody the same, then I can understand. I can assure you, Patrick doesn't need 35 visas.
You don't need 35 visas on a French passport compared to a Nigerian passport.
35 visas on French passport.
No.
But, so which means you have a freer movement than myself in Africa.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think this is such a huge conversation to have, Rufai Ayo. It reminds me of our chairman, Prince Nduka Obaigbena's conversation during the All Africa's Leaders Summit, where he charged leaders of African countries to remove restriction, for Africans traveling within Africa to promote intra-trade and to promote development. I think Alhaji Aliko Dangote's statement here is quite apt, and I think even just calling out the mere fact that a French passport, a French citizen or a French investor has freer access than an African needs to be looked into.
We know how difficult it is to travel within Africa. So much so, and there's a country that are very notorious. I can mention Mauritius. Should I go ahead? Mm-hmm. We all know how difficult it is to go within this country. That's why Africa is now not trying to get passport of the Caribbean to be able to fly within Africa. It is that bad. And I keep asking, what are the goals of the Organization of African Unity? That the likes of Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah was preaching in the 60s, let us come together. And Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah was right. He said the problem and the challenge will be, will Africans truly unite? Today, we've set up AFCTA now. How easy it is to be able to bring about trade. That's why you see we're so quick to go trade with other parts of the world. Is it only visa? Have you tried inter-Africa travel, connectivity? Try going to ordinary Senegal there. That's why you see a return ticket to Senegal is more than a return ticket to London. It's about 1 million. more than a return ticket to London. So even across Africa, we can't connect effectively. To sell his products in Benin Republic is a big problem. We also have language divisions. And this is Benin Republic that we are both part of ECOWAS. The sad reality is that despite the fact that he said it, it's still happening. But we too share the blame in Nigeria. Because as it is difficult for us to go to other African countries, it's also difficult for Africans to come into Nigeria.
Yes.
Look at, it was Larry Madowo that was speaking about how he needs to pay over $200 to be able to get into Nigeria consistently from Kenya.
But I think I saw something within the Interior Ministry saying that there's going to be free access for investors coming to Nigeria, that they can apply, I believe they said within 24 hours. That was last week. I saw that statement. Did you? Okay, good.
Until, so you see, you can announce a lot of things.
Yes.
But until you see the practical implementation,
right?
Why can't Africa be like Europe, that there are no borders? If we truly want to trade with ourselves, that's where we should start from. It should be like Europe, there are no borders.
Yes.
You can go in, you can trade, you can do all of that. Yeah. Europe is so fun that you are going to Paris, you go through Holland. Once border control checks you in Holland, border control doesn't need to check you in Paris again. It's one Europe. Yes. Why can't we have one Africa? And
that is what we're doing here. Prince Nduka Obaegbena had also mentioned that it is the duty of the media right now to call our leaders, for good governance at this point. Ayo, your thoughts on this?
All right, so if I mentioned Mauritius is actually visa-free. I think it's one of actually the most open countries in Africa.
Practicalize it. Try it.
Oh, I've been to Mauritius.
Try it and see
it's visa on arrival.
They are going to give you an extended stay.
But not except, but you have 90-day visa free. It's visa in Mauritius.
See, they say visa free when you get in there.
Yeah.
Other nationalities from Europe and everything, they will easily give them 60 days on renewal. For Nigeria, it's hardly they will leave you to give you 14 days.
Right, because you have 90 days. That's because at least they are better than the number of countries.
Try to implement. I know. I deliberately mentioned Mauritius.
Yeah.
Try to implement that 90 days. You will see the pushback. They will give you 14 days.
I've been to Mauritius.
The 90 days. I'm saying the 90 days expansion. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, it's
not
I think at the end of the day, I'm just saying at the end of the day, it's a matter of shame, really. That's the point, that we cannot go across the country without even having to pay. Do you have to have visa on arrival? Yes. Why can't we just travel cross country?
So the reason I'm saying that is because they're even better than other countries where you have to apply, and it's a very rigorous process. And oftentimes, I don't know what Nigeria has done to some countries. And let's not even use Nigeria as the only country, because if you have to apply as an African country to another African country for a visa, then we're not yet serious about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. We're not yet ready to implement that. And one of the things that has been identified as a barrier to trade intra-Africa is the fact that our borders are not open. I mean, the example I was going to give was the EU and the advantage that the EU gives. And that's one of the things that the United Kingdom is suffering today as a result of leaving the EU. The fact that the freedom of trade between countries or amongst countries in Europe is now, they're out of it. They've been cut out of it, and it's one of the biggest disadvantages. So there's something to be said for belonging to the European Union. For African countries that belong to the African Union, what is the advantage thereof? If people who come from outside the continent are better treated than people who live on the continent.
That's the main point.
I don't know what it is about ourselves that there is no love, there is no unity. So we keep having these summits, we keep having these meetings without an actual outcome from this. So we've had the conversation at the Africa CEO Awards, CEO Forum. Let's see what the outcome would be. Let's see what, if there would actually be implementation. And when this video came out, I thought I was glad that we had the president of Kenya in attendance there, we had the president of Rwanda there, and hopefully reports will be given to presidents of other nations represented. I'm hoping that finally, let us see us actually, I mean, kudos to Kenya, visa free now.
It's not practical.
Kudos to Rwanda. At least Rwanda. Kudos to Rwanda.
It's not practical.
Kudos to Rwanda.
The money is now higher.
But your own country has not even offered visa free yet. Nigeria, the giants of Africa,
so they just announced it. What they announced,
Nigeria
can lead by example.
Yes, and also our private sector, bringing this to the limelight. I think kudos to Halaji Aliko Dangote, Prince Nduka Obaegbena. Hopefully, this would all solve a lot of the issues that we have within the continent. I think really it's an embarrassment that a French national is able to travel within Africa easier than me, a Nigerian citizen. We'll take another story. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has called for a truce between the Rivers State Governor, Sim Fubara, and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, over the political crisis in the state. Jonathan made the call on Monday during the flag-off of a road project in Obiokpo local government area. He described the political tension as worrisome.
Political tension in the state is coming too much. Transition in Nigeria is becoming a problem. At the center, presidents have been taken over from presidents. There are always issues, but at least it's better managed. But at the state level, it's becoming noisy in so many states. And I feel that is not the best.
All right, we all know that, former President Goodluck Jonathan is a man of peace. It's not surprising that he's calling for peace in Rivers State and truce, because at the end of the day, it's the Rivers people that are suffering. A quick point.
I like it. I mean, he's maintained his status as a statesman and a man who sues for peace all the time.
Yeah.
But let me say the truth. I mean, his wife is called Madam. He's not Madam Patience, Madam Peace. But one of the things I must say is that sometimes for peace to happen, war has to occur. And so the people that are in Rivers State were saying that we need to end this, this reign of just one-manship. I think it's well within their rights. And sometimes war will lead to peace. So whilst he's calling for peace, there are some things that need to shake and need to be arranged for peace to occur. But it has to occur very quickly. We've said it a number of times about the fact that the Rivers people are the ones who suffer the most. I'm glad to see that there's an investment summit happening in Rivers soon. So finally, people are taking center stage as opposed to a conflict between two elephants, these two giants in the state.
By the way, his wife is known as Mama Peace. Mama Peace. That's what I know. That's what they call. They call her Mama Peace. And she was trending. Hopefully I'll take that story tomorrow, where she actually had talked to Wike, I think in the past, when she tried to install him as a governor.
Yeah, and, they brought that up now.
We'll bring that up probably tomorrow. Did you see that video? Well, all right, Mama Peace.
You can't blame her because she didn't know this was what
she
was going to come out of it.
She didn't know.
Wike did not know this was what was going to come out of it.
Are you sure? Okay, right.
He's a dramatic person. But like I just said, in making peace, we need to also draw boundaries.
Absolutely.
With due respect.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take another story. Over the weekend, a video which captured the moment some traders engaged in a fight with two soldiers at the Banex Plaza in the Wuse 2 area of Abuja went viral on social media. Witnesses said the soldiers visited the plaza to complain about a phone, which caused an argument with the traders, and a fight ensued, eliciting condemnation among a cross-section of Nigerians. While on Monday, some military personnel were said to have arrived at the shopping complex with about 5 Hilux vehicles and reportedly shut down the plaza. Some soldiers have also been seen standing at the entrance of the shopping complex, preventing traders from gaining access to the plaza. I mean, is this a lawless country? Rufai, is this a lawless country? Because I mean, I believe Onyema Nwachukwu has been, called several times with this story. I've also reached out to, the spokesperson for DHQ to find out how the army has the right to shut down the shopping complex. We did condemn the fight. Absolutely outrageous that traders should even touch our servicemen, our soldiers. Unacceptable. But this as well is condemnable.
Audrey,
yes,
you asked me a question, are we a lawless country? Sadly, it looks like. When you look at it critically, like you said before, even a fight among two people, I condemn it.
Yes.
Let alone our very valiant soldiers, I condemn it. But the reaction of what the army has now gone to do, you go out there, you shut down people's trade and livelihood, you took over the place in the process of hunting people. Another debacle, like we are seeing, is brewing in Okwama.
Yeah.
I think the residents of Banex protest should jointly sue the army. There should be litigation in courts.
I mean, you're preventing
for loss of
livelihood.
revenue, for other things that deny them of their rights. There should be litigation in courts. Because, and it goes back to our military days. Because we had too much military in this country. We've built a country where the military feels to a certain extent they are higher than the civilians. That's why they call us bloody civilians. So they can do and not do. But they forget that at some point, we are still in a civilian dispensation, and you have to respect the rights of other people. And they are still subject.
Yeah. Well, all
to
right.
what entails in our society.
Well, all right.
So please, I want not just the residents of Banning Plaza to now say, oh, thank you to the army when they opened it. No. There should be litigations in court.
Well, we're waiting for a statement from the army. This is the reason I brought up the story. We'll take our final story. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, where a group of Americans are reported to have been involved in a botched coup to overthrow President Felix Tshisekedi. A chilling footage, which has now gone viral, showed the moment two of the said plotters were seized by soldiers after trying to flee the country across the Congo River. One of them is Marcel Malanga, a 21-year-old American student who allegedly accompanied his father, a former Congolese refugee, from their home in Utah to lead the coup. His father was shot dead, and Marcel was arrested alongside two others. Marcel's mother, Brittany Sawyer, in a Facebook post on Monday, wrote that her son was innocent and had only followed his father, adding that she is tired of all the videos showing her son on social media and prayed for God's protection. I mean, first of all, my heart goes out to Brittany. I mean, because obviously she's a mother and seeing, you know, her son. Did you see that video of her son? I mean, she claims he's a student and is innocent of the crime that they've alleged at this point. But I mean, I feel like this is the weirdest story I've seen on social media. Having these Americans going to Congo allegedly to orchestrate a coup.
The first thing I want to ask you, what are they thinking? You know, it beggars belief. Well, like she mentioned, it's difficult to say that he's innocent of crimes when he was seen at the crime scene. He would have to, he would have to defend himself in court for that one. I can understand a mother's impassioned plea, but it is, I mean, Congo has had its share of controversies, government and all that, but I think it is foolhardy for anyone to come down by himself and take his son and risk their lives to venture on this kind of adventure. It beggars belief. I can't understand.
But the guy might also do the adventure. I remember the story of Mark Thatcher, Mommy Save Me. I mean, we can't go into that because of time, but I think we need to go.
Right, absolutely.
That's Margaret Thatcher's son.
We'll get more update on the story as the story unfolds. Well, I'd love to thank you both for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
And by that only kunisnes ni Edeke isowe ge ya bife inuriye the ballon the gentle lion who was in Europe no basinke tata no ozo de kibu ya bo ke fi wori ku basta maka ya bife ndani no who was in Europe foku le dinne oku ya de ko sidi ke fi wori ku basta maka ya bife drop ya on the comment section below chitekwe de ya Eastern News 24 kai si wene hotel no pozi ya do kempa dano no mun dem gwan kemesian